Welcome, everyone. It's great to be in New York. And for the New Yorkers, I hope you voted today. It's a big day and a lot at stake, whatever side you stand on. And so hopefully you've done your civic duty. So we didn't imagine it would have such a competition in the day in terms of themes. So I want to welcome everybody. This is a big change from 10 years ago. 10 years ago, at the beginning of the year, I was sitting on a bench at our SA conference with Jack Jones, and we're thinking about how can we create a forum where people can learn from one another and accelerate the maturation of our industry in cyber risk management. At RSA, we're having a lot of training opportunities, but very focused on, technical, operations disciplines, and not a lot spoken about risk. Risk was something a bit esoteric. There was no forum in the world where risk was being studied, developed, and shared. And so we decided to start. And the very first humble beginning was in the basement of a room that Bank of America gave us. And we started with 60 people. So very happy to see that 10 years later, this has become a thing. We now have over 18,000 members in the Institute. And today, I think, Sean, the numbers have been updated. We now got 600 registrants for the conference. So we had to close the registrations a few days ago because we're sold out. So thank you all for the support of the Institute. So it's fantastic. And it's a 40% jump from the previous record, et cetera. So this year, next year, this room may not suffice. So kudos to everybody who's been supporting us and driving this growth. So I want to say also that this is not just another conference. This is not just another networking organization. I also dare to say that this is where the future of cyber risk management is being built. And that has been our experience. And it's being built right here, right now. And I'll explain why in a minute. This year's theme, resetting cyber risk in the age of AI, isn't just a slogan. It's a call to action. And now I'm going to tell you why reset cyber risk, in the age of AI. I think the biggest thing that was already hinted by Matthias is that AI isn't just an upgrade. It is a big reset. And I dare to say it's the biggest shift in human decision-making in the last 300 years. The biggest shift they would experience in supporting decision-making in the last 300 years. Yes, we lived throughout a mini revolution in the last 300 years. The Industrial Revolution with the advent of, steam and power, and then electrification of our societies, and computing and the internet. But this one is different. It's the first time where machines can learn, machine can adapt, and machines are starting to take decisions. That's a big change. And for enterprises and boards, that means a complete rethink. How do we make decisions? Who or what makes decisions? How do we aggregate risk? And how do we create value or make sure that value doesn't get destroyed? These are questions being asked right now in board meetings all over the world. And the bad guys, guess what? They're already on it. You all experienced it, AI lets attackers move faster, automating reconnaissance, crafting perfect deepfakes. I've seen a video of myself talking and saying stuff I never said before, and it was very credible. I think my mom would have believed that. Adapting malware on the fly. And as defenders as well, I think AI can help us as well, by analyzing massive telemetry that our systems give us, spotting anomalies, automating triage, predicting attacks before they happen. But the question for this community in cyber risk is this: how do we manage these opportunities and these risks? How do we evolve our models, our metrics, our thinking? This is what this week is about. Is in training session that already happened for 2 days, in workshops that are going to happen throughout the conference, in conversation you may have in the corridors that will shape what comes next. So, and this is why I say that FAIR has been getting future shaping, not by predicting the future, but by building it together. We take upon big challenges, we get the best minds at it, and develop basically a rationale and a theory on how to go about it and then put it in practice. And so we all here and by the way, we're doing this from many different vantage points. If you look around you, you're going to discover CISOs, chief risk officers, board members, regulators, scientists, innovators, academic and students, all here for one reason: to make cyber risk measurable, manageable, and meaning to business leaders. And I'm going to repeat this, meaningful to business leader. This is not self-service to us, it's to serve our businesses. And the urgency is real for the business. I'm not going to recount the incident that happened, because the big incidents that happen, they are really redefining enterprise destiny. They become so big. Just the last one on Jaguar, I think we estimated at FAIR Institute that the losses surpassed already $2 billion. That's material. And these incidents are changing CEOs, not just CISOs. We've seen CEOs change following incidents. Suddenly they retire after an incident. Suddenly they bring in somebody else and putting boards on notice. And as one of the authors of the National Association of Corporate Directors Handbook on Cyber Risk, I can tell you that cyber risk is becoming officially, business risk. And the question in the discussion really shifted from a few years ago, we were asking ourselves, can we prevent breaches, to breaches will happen. What can we do to manage their business impact in real time? That's how the question is changing. So urgency, very, very real. And so I want to continue the reflection on why do we say that FAIRCON is future shaping, or the activities of FAIR Institute. And I want to reflect on the past decade, on what we have done. We led one of the most important transformations in enterprise risk management, moving from compliance checkboxes to strategic decision making. And illustrating this chart, people asked me to put it back in here because many people are new. I want to show of hands. How many people are new to the FAIR conference? Can you? Wow. I think more than 50% of the room. So I'm going to recount this again because this was a popular, summarization we had done of the years. We went in 2016 where the first conference, the first topic it had is can cyber risk be quantified? Or is it a special snowflake so unique that you can possibly tackle it? And I remember one of the future conferences, we had James Lamb, who was the first ever CRO, Chief Risk Officer, holding that title. And stand up so people can get to see you, get to know him. He's a very important person there. So he basically said, I can see this coming. The same thing that happened in market risk and credit risk. Untreatable problem, many variables moving in real time. And then came the models. And then came the data. And then came the tools. And suddenly, we're doing market risk and credit risk using tooling in New York every day. It's just normal. The same thing happens. It's happening in cyber risk. The models came, like FAIR. The data came, so many more signals about threats and controls that we can harvest. And the tools are coming to automate that at scale, so we can do that at scale. And then we evolved the community in reflecting over the years about what can we use quantification for? What are the use cases? So we can provide real benefits, to our business. How can we understand the business value of our cybersecurity investments? What's the ROI for the X, Y, and Z? Decisions like that. And then we over the years, we reflected, great, we're doing this manually. We had, remember some amazing tools we developed over the years, but it was still very manual. It's how do we scale this? How do we build programs where we can operationalize this in our day-to-day processes? And then we moved to, something to unlock automation. Jack Jones during COVID, the author of FAIR. By the way, where are you, Jack? Jack, where are you? You must be somewhere here. He's so almost so. He must be here in the audience. And so he came up during COVID with FAIRCAM, which I want to emphasize because it was the key to unlocking automation, understanding how controls together individually and as a system relate to risk. And it was the key to using telemetry coming from machines and automatically calculating risk, major breakthrough in the industry. So you can automatically, assess and monitor risk in real time. And then came the regulations. The SEC suddenly asking to disclose material incidents, and people say material, what does it mean? How you break down risk? What are the forms of losses? And so we released, the materiality assessment model that helps you break down forms of losses and give you a big aid in calculating the risk. And last year was about how can we manage cyber risk at the speed of the business? Because the days of static one-time assessment a year are completely out of sync with how companies make decisions. Because we make decisions every day, including in cybersecurity. How many people do you want to hire? How many people do vulnerability management? What tools we buy? When we launch a new service, what is the right architecture? Are we leveraging risk assessments for those things? In many cases, we're still not. We're still using our gut. And so how we make this in sync? How can risk become a support and decision support in real time to the business so we can be helpful in their decision making versus being what it was in the last few years, which was a regulatory compliant checklist. I've done a risk assessment, or something you do after an incident to show the board that you're responsible, but then not helping people on a day-to-day basis. So, proud to say we did this journey. I'm going to talk about the future, themes that I think are emerging in the community. But I'm happy to say that we really turned cyber risk management into a discipline that today speaks the language of the CFO, of the CEO, and of the board. And we all should be proud of it because we did this all together. So round our applause on that one. And we did it as a community, it took an entire community. We had risk modelists, of course, Jack John in first there. He's the chairman now emeritus of the FAIR Institute, who gave scientific rigor to the chaos surrounding the definition and measurement of risk. Everybody was making up what risk was with no standard definition. Now there is a standard, and we are leveraging the standard definition that FAIR brings about. And then we had statisticians. We had Douglas Hubbard as an example, who spoke at many FAIR conferences, who taught us that uncertainty can be measured and be very helpful in assessing risk. We had data scientists, and I want to mention some of the people who helped us over the years, like Wade Baker and the friends at CISOs showed us how to get actionable insights out of machine data. We had Software Company. I've been personally associated with, remember me, some of you as a CEO of RiskLens, and now associated with SAFE. And along with many other sponsors here, we basically put to practice, these best practices that FAIR was bringing us about into actionable, everyday deliverables in software and scalable automation. And then the service providers, who and like we have some sponsors here like C-Risk, Guidepoint, Protivity, and EY, who operationalize FAIR in boardrooms, SOCs, and risk committees every day. So it really took a community here. And the consequence is that what we did by collaborating and doing this all together, that cyber risk has escaped what I call the compliance cage. We are felt like many of us trapped in this compliance checklist exercise, and now we escaped that in many cases. And so very happy to see that we are now a board-relevant, data-driven discipline. And I think it has consequences also in our jobs. If I pick up just one figure, we had Matthias as a CISO. All this, we have helped many CISOs, I would say, move from the basement, and I've seen, CISOs working basement with no windows, etc., to the boardroom where they get to the top, floors of the building because they're becoming an indispensable partner to the business by providing options to make decisions and making sure they stay out of trouble. So really turning from defenders of networks to leaders of enterprise resilience. And so that's why, I dare to say that FAIRCON is future shaping, because we have seen that future being shaped over the years. So looking ahead, what are the next futures? Now we look backwards, and I see four forces shaping the future. The first one we already spoke about a little bit, which is AI. I believe AI will be a greatest accelerators in our profession, but also because it is also the greatest amplifier of risk. We spoke about attackers using it to move faster and smarter, and we need to make sure that as a risk professional, we can respond at machine speed. Again, as we said before, we need to move from static assessment to continuous risk monitoring. If threats are ever changing, new threats emerging every day, we need to respond in tone and being able to provide actionable intelligence and react to it at the same speed. Second thing is, it's not enough to provide, an assessment, we also want to be better at helping our companies respond. Moving from manual responses in the future, right now, to agentic AI-driven remediation in the future. We need to have ways to automate our responses based on a good understanding of risk. And I would say the third aspect here, we must also assess AI risk, and I would say Gen AI risk itself. Understand what use cases are okay and what use cases are not okay and need to be remediated. So that's one trend. AI really changed the game for our profession. The second trend, I would say, is that we need to get to a singular view of risk. When I look at people, and talk to you guys, and how is risk organized? To say, we're only in charge of IT risk or technologies or cyber risk. And then there's another team that does OT risk, operational risk. There's another team in the basement somewhere doing third-party risk management. And there's another team now promoted to do AI risk. And guess what? Your service delivery, the way you produce widgets in your company, crosses all these aspects. And we're managing them in silos. So how in the world can business people make sense of it if we give them piecemeal information? Do you think they have time and, elements to put it all together? We make it very difficult. We need to start looking at these disciplines, coming together and breaking those silos. I would say the next frontier is going to be unified, a quantified view of what I call, of digital risk that spans all this dimension. We need to have one view of risk that takes into account all these aspects: cyber, OT, AI, third party, all in one view. So that's a challenge for us as an industry. That's the second trend. The third one is I see cyber risk quantification moving into security operations. We're moving from second line technology risk. This is where FAIR has lived. And it needs to find a home in security operations. I was talking yesterday to the CISO. He's telling me, I wish my security operations team knew FAIR. What can you do to help my team? The number of vulnerabilities we're getting every day exceed our capacity to resolve them. And we struggle to prioritize. We prioritize, using technical scores, zero business context. And so we're misaligned. When we're trying to move the needle with FAIR on the risk assessment side, these people are fixing things using technical metrics, no business context. We are out of sync. And so I think as a community, that's a challenge, Imagine vulnerabilities prioritized by dollars at risk, not CVSS scores. This is where I think cyber risk will meet, real-time action. That's the third trend, CRQ and security operation. And the fourth one, I think, is regulations. We spoke in the past about how regulations in the US, especially for public companies, with the ACC rule, force people to think about materiality, force people to think about how do I assess and quantify risk in financial terms, and speak to the business. But it's how coming in Europe now, and actually even more precise terms. There's regulation like NIS2 and DORA for the global companies, you're probably familiar with it, that have even more stringent requirements on timely notification of incidents, including a measure of impact and continuous monitoring of your internal risk and third-party risk. You see there, they're basically pointing the fingers in the direction we're also saying, you're going to need to do continuous monitoring and also board accountability. So sometimes I thought, regulation was an impediment, forcing us to do the wrong thing. But in these cases, they may be our gift that will allow us to bring what we want to do, the change we want to affect in our company, to the forefront. And telling the bosses, the regulators are asking us, and regulation for once can be our friend. A friend can help us drive change in our organization. So I see these four challenges for us to tackle as a company, and happy to be on record to see how well we progress year over year as a community in addressing these challenges. And I would say the ultimate test of the progress here will be pretty simple, I think. If a board is asking, how well are we doing? Are we within our risk appetite? We want the CISO that we work with be able to answer confidently in dollars and probabilities. And it's starting to happen. I was with one of our community members, a CISO, the other day, and I asked him, we're catching up. He was preparing for the conference, and he said, sorry, I'm late. I was at a board meeting. And I said, okay, how did the board meeting go? And his response surprised me because he said, it went really well. I said, tell me how. Because CISO and board meeting going well, not always in the same sentence. And it's like, what happened? He said, it was the first time we didn't speak about technology in the board meeting. We spoke about risk. We spoke about options that we can give the business to keep us out of trouble depending on our risk appetite. It was a great discussion. And for me, it's like, wow. First time I heard it in those clear terms. And this is what we can multiply and really change the game. I think this is where the future is. And again, confirmation that the CISO is no longer guarding their firewalls. He can be really a risk leader. And I would say CISOs, their destiny is to become really, I would say, risk economists, not because they study statistics, but because they have FAIR. They have tools like the ones we provide at FAIR conference, and with the tool providers out there, they also become a strategist, not just a tool maintainer, a defender, and a communicator of enterprise value. Really, CISO should be the chief resilience officer. That's that's the ultimate test. And longer term, where is this bringing all us? Especially, resetting cyber risk in the age of AI. And I think as I reflect on this, FAIR, as we started at the beginning, remember 10 years ago, it started as a movement for risk quantification. Can it be done? Can we speak the language of business? And it became a standard for aligning, again, cyber with business. Now, fueled by AI, we're entering the age of autonomous cyber risk management, where systems can quantify, prioritize, and mitigate risk in real time. Systems. We're talking about machines here. But I want to be realistic as well. This is a journey we're starting, but I feel like a 10-year-old community, we're like a 10-year-old kid. I'm going to steal an analogy that Christoph from Sirius gave me the other day. Like a 10-year-old kid, you grew up, you feel like I know everything already, and you're just a kid. You still, have many more things to learn in life, and that's a challenge to our community. How can we support this movement towards autonomous cyber risk management where we can dynamically and automatically adjust to new threats, come up with mitigation options in on the fly, and reduce risk, at its highest potential and maximize the risk reduction, automatically. And that's a challenge in front of us. This is where we're going, long term. And technology alone, I don't think will get us there. It will take the same spirit that built this community. And I'm going to remind people that are new to communities, like critical thinking built this community. Collaboration and innovation from many of the providers here that have been supporting the community in bringing these concepts to life. So in conclusion, let's make this not just another conference, but a launch pad for the next decade of cyber risk leadership, And the future of cyber risk management isn't waiting to be discovered. For us to look at it. It's waiting to be built. And I would say, let's build it together. Thank you very much.